for that introduction. We are all here today to talk about export strategies and international business in the 1990s. It has been mentioned in some of the correspondence that the U.S. is exporting 20% of its national output. I represent wheat producers in Texas, where we export 90% of our product, primarily due to the proximity to the Port of Houston. Nationally, we export approximately 60% of the wheat that is grown, and of course consume 40% domestically. But in the Texas Panhandle, where 60% of the wheat is grown in Texas, for every $10 generated by wheat, $9 of those are because of our foreign markets overseas. We have heard how you can market individual products into the foreign marketplace. My discussion today will be more in line with market development and service to the wheat industry. I represent the Texas Wheat Producers Board, which is a 15-man producers board elected statewide by producers under the commodity referendum law. Under this checkoff law, which is, by the way, 1 penny per bushel statewide, these funds can only be used for market development, research, and education. The largest effort of the Texas Wheat Producers Board continues to be our overseas market development work. We do not buy or sell wheat. Our job is to develop markets for our wheat. We accomplish this by supporting an organization in Washington, D.C. Called U.S. Wheat Associates. This is an organization supported by the Texas Wheat Producers Board and 17 other wheat states to carry on our overseas market development work. The budget for U.S. Wheat Associates is determined by a funding formula based on a 5-year average production in each state, with matching funds coming from the Foreign Agricultural Service. For every dollar that producer funds that goes into U.S. Wheat Associates, $2 is generated from the Foreign Agricultural Service to help us with our market development work. Of course, these funds help us with our help fund and support our Washington headquarters, along with 15 overseas foreign offices. Those offices, in turn, work on developing trade servicing, milling and baking, work on developing our milling and baking skills overseas for market development. And but anyway, this is in hope that we will create a demand for our market. One of the more important things that we do, and one of the more important things and the things that I enjoy doing, and that is hosting our foreign trade teams that come to the Texas and to the U.S. Many of our overseas foreign offices, as I mentioned, we have 15. We do have a marketing plan annually, which is about a year in advance, where they plan these foreign teams to come to the Texas and the U.S. This year, I've hosted some 15 to 20 foreign trade teams in Texas this past year. In fact, I've had about 3 trade teams just this past month, one from China, one from Polish and Romania, and one from Jordan. One experience I would like to share with you is a high-level team I had just this past week from Amman, Jordan. It was a very high-level trade team. It was from the Ministry of Supply, which is just about like our Secretary of Agriculture here in the U.S. They were on a trade mission that was developed where they would visit the Kansas area, Oklahoma, and then conclude in the Houston area. It consisted of 3 individuals, and as I mentioned, they were very high level. I was aware that they were coming to Houston. I developed their itinerary. I got a call from Washington several days before they were to come to Houston, where I was to meet them, and they said that they had some meetings with a company in Kansas City in which the head person was not able to talk to them. The second person was not able to talk to them. They were able to talk to the 3rd or 4th person down the line that would not answer any of their questions. So they did not treat them very royally, as they wanted to be treated, as they do in the Middle East sometimes. And so the leader, which had to be called Your Excellency, said, cancel the whole deal. Cancel all the appointments today and tomorrow. Let's go to Oklahoma. So I got a call in my office that said, be aware of these guys. They're coming. They're very high level. is there any way you can treat them royally? And so I thought, oh my gosh, you know, we thought we always treated our foreign guests nice and this sort of thing. So consequently, I called the hotel. We was able to upgrade the rooms to VIP, to suites, and this sort of thing. And also, a stretch limo was waiting for them at the airport to pick them up and take them to the hotel. And you mentioned at noon about the cultures. Since he did mention the fact about the seating and the vehicles, I did notice that His Excellency did sit on the rear, on the right-hand side of the limo, which means that the driver in our cars is on the left-hand side. So knowing about all this, well, I did kind of hold back and let him kind of take the lead there and kind of see what happened. And it was also, we had a U.S. Wheat representative from our overseas foreign office with us this past week, and he did warn us in advance about some of these things. And also, when we went to restaurants, His Excellency had to order first and also be served first. So anyway, these were just some of the things that we encounter when we are hosting these foreign trade teams. And one thing I will mention, they did enjoy their visit to Houston, the rooms, the limos. We don't do this very often, only on these certain circumstances, I might point out. But they left Houston and flew to Washington, D.C., where last week they tendered for 350 to 400,000 metric tons of wheat. So that made us very happy that we think we satisfied them. And anyway, they flew to Washington. We're very happy and tendered for a lot of wheat. And so that's just one of the instances that we go through in Houston, but I really enjoy it. And culture does play a big part, as they mentioned at noon today, in hosting these foreign guests. Another part of our work is once or twice a year, through our U.S. Wheat Associates, we have board team travel. Board team means the U.S. Wheat Associates Board of Directors, in which Texas has 2 representatives on it. Once a year, there will be one team that goes to Europe and the Middle East, and the other team will go to Southeast Asia and the Asian market. I was able to participate this past year in a tour of the Europe and the Middle East. The reason these teams are developed, or this board team travel is developed, is to, one, is by U.S. Wheat policy that they go once a year, and the Foreign Agriculture Service policy, that we go to our overseas foreign offices, go through those offices, hear the various programs they have going on regarding foreign market development in those various countries. Just for some examples, we did go to Moscow at a very touchy time when all the republics were breaking out. Instead of having one Russia, now we have 14 different republics. U.S. Wheat saw the need for an overseas foreign office in Moscow we hadn't had in the past. So I was there at our grand opening of our U.S. Wheat office in Moscow at the Radisson Plaza there. As I mentioned, we did, they did break up into 14 different republics, so we felt a need. If we're making 14 different contacts in 14 different countries, there is a need for an office, centrally located in the Republic of Russia, in Moscow. We did meet with high-level export individuals, export club, where they could explain to us what is actually going on there. We also went and visited several flour mills to see if they're satisfied with the wheat that we sell. That's just one example. Another example is we went into Cairo, Egypt, where they had many flour mills there, where we visited them, met with the high-level government officials. We also toured a milling and baking school, which we helped fund in Cairo to help increase our demand of our wheat products to Egypt. That's just an example of some of the things we do with our board team travel. Just this past week, I don't know how many of you listened to KGNC. We were in Mexico City. We developed, prior to last week, let me just back up one moment to give you a little background that for those of you that did not know about CONASUPO in Mexico. CONASUPO in the past was the head grain buying agency or government grain buying agency for Mexico City. Within the last year or two, they have turned that over to the private sector, or they call it privatization. So in consequence, the flour millers did not know how to buy wheat. So seeing this need of educating the flour millers in Mexico, we did develop a seminar over here to those grain companies that might be interested in selling grain to the individual flour millers in Mexico. We held a seminar in Fort Worth. We had about 100 participants from the various grain trade, private grain industry officials, and it was very well attended. To a follow-up to that, we had a seminar in Mexico City and Monterey to where we could bring those individuals interested that came to the Fort Worth meeting into Mexico to meet with the flour milling officials, bring their order books, try to get more educated on how to do business with each other. And according to Bill Nelson, the Executive Vice President who participated in that, said it was very successful and it was a very good trip, and we're going to be doing some follow-up on that in the near future. I have told you about some of the work we do, not because you're not interested in wheat marketing, but because any industry you are in, there is probably an organization such as a trade association, a council, or a federation that you can support that is related to the U.S. Department of Commerce, for example, where you can work together as a group for export market development. As a new exporter, it is better to identify with this approach rather than trying to do it independently, which can be more costly and less effective. In conclusion, I'd like to ask this question: do these generic type market development efforts pay off? In Texas and U.S., we are exporting 3 times as much wheat today than we were when we started these efforts several years ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rodney. Are there any questions for him?